What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Infiltrate podcast presented by Infiltrate Records. I am with Brandon Rossi of Infiltrate Records, myself, Blake, whatever you know me as, of Infiltrate Records, and I'm glad to be here.
Yep.
Today, Brandon and I are going to be discussing some very vital topics and something that is very important for musicians to understand, and that is brand consistency, and that is the importance of brand identity. So if you're tuning in, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that notification bell. If this can help a fellow musician or artist out there, that's what our hope is. But without further ado, what's up, Brandon?
What's up, bro? Dude, I'm excited. I think I'm super excited to chat about this because, me and Lindsay, we talk about this all the time. I mean, you and I talk about this all the time, to be honest with you. It's constantly something that's in our language. It's constantly something that we're, chatting about, and that I might have kind of like a professional side in this area, but we're both learning constantly. Like everybody on this team is constantly learning about what is brand identity, what is consistency, what does it look like to be consistent, professional, but also completely you and who you are as a brand as you're building that. And and also aside from that is we're building Infiltrate Records. So we are building a artist, but our main goal is to build Infiltrate Records, which is what God's called us to do. So it's kind of like this weird thing. You have all of these people that are building brands, but then you have us who are building these other brands, but we're building this one kind of calling kingdom thing that God's asked you to do. So it's like, how do you bring all of those different people together, all those different brands? And I feel like it's just something that to get everybody on the same page is so important.
You're so right. Yeah. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is that consistency and uniformity. And more importantly, a keyword that pops up for Brandon and I is identity. And listen, yep. I'm not going to sit here and say I know it all. I'm learning, I'm evolving. And I think the brand identity and the consistency of your branding is ever evolving. And you need to be ready to adapt. You need to be ready to change, because if you're not, you'll be left in the kind of dust,
Yeah.
So that's what I want to get into first. Is the first thing we're going to talk about is what is brand consistency? So the term brand consistency refers to any attempt to communicate messages in a way which doesn't detract or wander away from the core brand strategy. So again, the identity, the values, and the foundation, all that's wrapped up in your brand identity. So in other words, brand consistency is all about being yourself in everything that you do, right? So you as the artist, be genuine, be authentic, be yourself, so that so that your consumers, that people who follow you know who you are, what you produce, and what your work is all about, right? So to be clear, brand consistency is much deeper than remembering to use the same logo with proper, patterns and colors and all that other stuff. But like those things are helpful and those make you stick out. But brand consistency is like I just said, an ever evolving process that pulls your listeners, pulls consumers into your narrative and makes them feel as if they are a part of your personal journey. People want to see what's going on. They want to be a part of something, from your music to the photos you choose to promote, your every move and everything in between, your message and focus. It needs to be cleared. When it's scattered brain, it becomes confusing. And that's what we're going to get into first here. So
it's so true.
Consistency, bro.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I just think about, bringing it kind of full circle to the very beginning of what you said. I think of my family, my wife and my son. Something, Lindsay and I, when we first got married, that we wanted to do is we wanted to create, this might sound kind of weird to some people, but if you follow along, I promise it won't be. It's like, we devoted to each other at the beginning of our marriage that we wanted to build our family like it was a brand. And what happens is when you, there's like values and a foundation, and what those values are core values, and you have a foundation. So obviously for Lindsay and I, right, depending on who's watching, but for us, it's Jesus, right? The Lord is our foundation in all things that we do. And then the values, the core values that we have are something that we've intimately created amongst us. So that way, whenever we're stepping out of those values, we remind each other of those things. So there's something simple, but also there's something really challenging inside of the remembrance of the values. And I think that when you're talking about brand consistency, it's like where are you at with your foundation? What is your foundation? There's just kind of some basic questions to ask. Like, what's your foundation of what you're doing? Why are you doing it? Where does it start? Where do you see it going? And then the values, like, what are those personal core values that you have as an artist, a producer, whatever that may be? These are very important things. You get on Instagram, right? You'll probably see hundreds and thousands of brands that are promoted daily. Honestly, just with one scroll, the average person, just in one 10-minute scroll, if they're just going across a couple of reels, they run into at least 15 to 20 different brands that are promoting something, whether that be, for me, my algorithm would probably be Christian gym wear. It'll probably be tools, yard work, baby things, right? Like those are the kind of the things that run into my stream whenever I'm scrolling reels. What I notice as I click on these brands just for education purposes, I'm looking for a lot of things. Like, what is their grid tell me the moment that I click on it without scrolling it? So if I look at the top notch of their Instagram, it tells me a little bit about who they are. Sometimes you'll see smart guys that throw their current deal in their bio, which is extremely smart. It's like, hey, if you jump on our website or whatever, we have this deal going on. That's the first thing that catches anybody's eye. So just remember, as an artist, producer, whatever that may be, when somebody comes to your Instagram, they're not looking at your photos and your videos first. They're looking at your bio first. They're looking at your main picture. They're looking at your bio. What does it say about you? Does it pull them in any way? The classic cliches of branding these days are your name says something like, I'll just throw out there, Alan Jakes. Right? That's your like at name to log into Instagram. But then you go down to your bio and it says, I'm Floor Master DJ, like whatever that is. It's like, it's very inconsistent. And what they do is they're like, okay, is this Alan Jakes or is this Floor Master DJ? Like, what is that? Who are you? And then they scroll down and it says both, like, oh, I'm Alan Jakes. And, I'm also this guy on Saturdays. And it's kind of like, okay, cool. Is there a way to be able to separate the two though? But also still be very much the two at the same time. And that's where you kind of find that consistency and that foundation, and you start to find those values of who you are as an artist, and just a creative in general, because you can get very lost in trying to pull in so many different dreams in one that you really don't know who you are, in the midst of like the creativeness. So for me, I started Glass Jar years ago, which is a creative company. And one of the main reasons why I started it is because I wanted to be a photographer, a videographer, a graphic designer, and I wanted to do marketing. Dude, I can't do all of those things. Let's be for real, right? Like, dude, I can't do all of those things. Like, I had the dream and the aspiration to do it, but the reality is I'm one person. Like, you can't do all of the things. So you need to find and figure out that niche for where you're trying to go and what you want to be. Find those core values within you and make sure that you don't step and toe outside of that foundation with those core values.
Yeah, I love it. Even for me, as God is like aligning my path, what is my goal that I want to do? I want to help others. I want to serve others. So how can you serve others? And you too, you and I are identical on this. So how can we serve others is, well, now we have a product and a service that we can offer, and others that meets people's needs, right? So we found that in the market that people need this, that people need help, that people want community, but they also need these products as well too. So it makes sense, it's kind of creating a win-win situation and serving them, but also I'm an artist. So I don't want to get mixed up in three or my artistry. So it's separate. And I believe that people know that it's separate, and they know that I'm an artist under Infiltrate Records. Right. But I'm an artist as well too. And then I'm part of, I have Infiltrate Records, but we don't want to mix up the two. Like, hold on, who is this guy? And
you do that. And honestly, man, you've always kind of done that very well, because what you've told is like, if you go to your Facebook, for an example, right? You have a lot of engagement on your Facebook, all of your platforms, but Facebook is one that I see.
I'm old, bro.
Yeah, right. And it's like, you go to your Facebook, and what happens is somebody can jump on your either 3 or your Blake Childress kind of platform, your pages. And as I'm scrolling, say just like the Blake page, there's every once in a while you're sharing the 3 content. And people know that, like, oh, okay, this guy's an artist. But when you get on there, it's very personable. Like you're very personal. Like you'll post pictures of you and your wife on a Jamaican, cruise, or like travel or whatever that may be, just like something you guys did, or maybe like summer fun with the wife, those kind of personal things. But then when you over to 3, it's work, it's business driven. It's like, it's time to get the business on this page. You want people to come here and know that, like, man, I'm sharing the gospel. I'm sharing the message of God. I really want people to hear this. I want to see souls saved. And you see kind of the purity inside of what's happening. But what you've done is you still, on that side of it, you post personable things like content, where it's a selfie video, like, hey guys, I just want to encourage you today. Right. And those things, what happens is you can be both Blake and 3, but you found that foundation. You've kind of come across this foundation that keeps you stable as a believer, but you have core values within you. It's like, man, I follow identity. I follow Jesus, right? Like these things that you have personally and within you that you don't step outside of, and your social media has trademarked that very well.
Wow,
so it's like a good example.
Of dude, you're gonna make me cry right now, Brandon.
Stop, dude. Whatever.
No, thanks, man. And look, it's improving, too. There's things that we need to learn and be around people that'll get you better. Your wife's hit me up and said, hey, put this in the grid or do this and that, and yeah, just do it. Just, now we've made better covers for Infiltrate,
cover. I mean, you said it earlier, man. I think it was at the end of the whatever you were saying with the whole, like, just kind of explaining brand identity. You were talking about anywhere from the music that you post to the photos that you post. Whatever you choose is going to like promote your every move. And so what happens is when you get to that grid, like if I come across the 3 grid, the importance of a cover photo whenever you're posting a reel is if people can't recognize it or they can't tell what it is, they're not going to click it. That's a high percentage of people. And I've even tested this on myself. As unintentionally going to pages or whatever. Shout out to one of my favorite pages right now. I don't know why it is. I just think it's this kind of great mixture of like authenticity with professionalism. It's Tori Kelly. Man, anytime I run into Tori Kelly, content, it's like, this is so simple, but it's valuable. Like it's rare. So if you're an artist, man, like go and see what the vibes are there. Like what the kind of artists like Tori Kelly, like what is she doing? And like, how does she kind of stand out, but she's fully her, but she's still fully professional. And like Lauren Daigle, right? Such a good idea of like her bringing in that kind of hippie, new school, kind of look or whatever feel, but she's still very much a Christian artist, and but also still talks about really deep life things inside of her music. And so she's done a really good job of marketing herself as a brand, which is like, man, I want to meet people where they're at in the most desperate times, which goes to promoting your every move, right? So like, hey, this is what's currently going on in my life. But the music that she's posting matches up with those captions that she's putting on there. The photos that she's posting are ones of her being very authentic, connecting with fans or connecting with people or doing super nice things in the city that she lives in, or, whatever that may be. And those things right there, you'll notice that the traction that you want comes from you being fully real inside of the consistency. Don't like, as an artist, producer, whatever, don't stir away from who God has called you to be. Because if you can, here's the reality of it, Blake, there's always going to be someone better than all of us at what we do. That's the reality, right? Yep. We think about Infiltrate Records for a second, right? There's always going to be someone that you could hire that's going to be better at, what I do for like the record label right now, which is helping with brand strategy, helping with, artist development, whatever that may be. You're always going to find someone significantly better than me. And to be honest with you, when it comes to a talent level, there's always going to be someone that could top you because they've been doing it 10 or 15 years longer than you, right? Yep. But that's the reality of what it is. But the key is that no one can be a better Blake, and nobody can be a better Brandon when they're staying consistent with what God has asked them to do.
Amen.
So when someone comes across your Instagram, it's like, dang, man, I could never be a better Blake than Blake, because when you look at it, man, you're just fully you on who God has asked you to be, which is 3. And God has asked you to be the best 3 in this season that you can be, which means staying consistent, following that foundation, having those core values, and knowing that, man, I've been called to this and living that out.
Back to brand consistency too.
Yeah. It's like living that out.
And you can't have consistency if you don't have identity.
100%. So when it comes to like a educational standpoint, it's like, man, I just think about me with the couple of brands that I've helped build. It's like three things that come to my mind is, do you have it written down? Do you have your brand written down? Like if you're an artist, what is your goal? Like what is your mission within? What is your artist name? Why is it your name? So when people ask you, because the reality of it as an artist, people are going to ask you why your name is why it is. And another thing too is give people a summary, dude. Like when somebody invites you to a show or when somebody invites you to a program, whatever that may be, man, have something to give them as a professional to say, man, this is who I am. This is who I am as a brand. You know what I mean? And this is why I charge what I charge. If you're charging, this is why, whatever, this is why I ask for a love offering, because I'm fully off of faith or whatever your dynamic as an artist is. And it's like having that professionalism written down to be able to present to people is very, very important as a brand. It's like, man, when you're starting a new business, you have a business plan. Why?
Yeah.
I could start a business tomorrow and not put anything on paper. But then when I go to ask someone to partner with me, they're going to ask for professional things. And unfortunately, I have to provide professional things to have professional business, wholesale or, whatever that may be in whatever field you're in. So as an artist, that's the expectation is, man, when you're stepping into a professional environment, you have to provide professional things.
Exactly. So as an artist too, there's three words I want to share with you. And I ran across this today as I did a little research beforehand, and it's called unique selling proposition, also known as USP. So artists, this is part of this education. What is your unique selling proposition? 100%. Your USP is what sets you apart from other musicians or artists or creatives. It could be your unique sound. It could be your personal style. It could be your story or even your values and beliefs. Take some time. You need to write down, like Brandon said, if you're listening to this, about what makes you unique and how you can leverage this in your brand identity. Okay. Yeah. And then when you find that, you be consistent with that. Right. Yeah. And you need to remember that this is, in my case, in Brandon's case, this is what God has called us to do. Right. So you need to remember your identity is what you've been called to do. And you need to remember the why to what you're doing. Right. And then you need to be consistent with that. If you're all over the place, people aren't going to believe your story or what you're doing.
Yeah. And, the reality of it too, man, is the hardest part about building something and trying to figure out where you're going is this part. It is figuring out how to put it on paper, because when you start to realize it, what happens is whenever you sit down and you're like, yeah, man, I'm going to type this out. I'm going to type out what my vision is, my mission, all these things. What happens is you find out that it's so much scatterbrained than you thought, and it doesn't make sense. So what it does is it forces you to a new creative point. And also the next step, going even a little bit further, it forces you in prayer. It stops you for a minute to say, man, God, what are you asking me to do in this season? Like, what do you want me to do with what you've given me so far? Thus far, this small little paragraph that I've written so far, how does this go into impacting and building a kingdom that you've asked me to advance? And then what happens is you notice it starts to kind of flow. And the partnership is very challenging at the beginning because you think that you have the full vision. So when you think that you have, you ever had that moment? I don't know, Blake, if you can relate to that, but man, especially when I'm driving. When I'm driving, that's where I get the most vision and inspiration from the Spirit of God. And I'll just, drive or whatever, and I'm just praying, and God will just give me this crazy vision. For a lot of songs, crazy vision, and I'm like vasting out. I'm like, yes, dude, that's it, bro. Let's go. And then, I'll write it down on my notes on my phone. And I'll sit down and I'll try to write out something like, okay, what does this look like? What is this going to be or whatever? And I realize I'm stuck. I'm like, dang, man, I had all this vision. That vision was like a whole 30-minute drive, but I had nothing to write down. It's because God's like, man, I need the partnership there. I need the partnership there. I need you to be able to rely on step by step. That's what this is. This is what branding is step by step. When you can stay consistent in something very small, you'll notice that it starts to grow consistently fast, like constantly. And, especially with engagement.
Consistency, be consistent, just continue, be consistent. Another thing to artists is as you build your online presence too, and something I need to do better at. So I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical, but you need to get engagement and or request feedback from your audience, right? Find out who's listening, who your audience is, right? These platforms, especially Instagram, you need to take a look at your analytics and know who is, looking for you and finding and scrolling through your content. But also don't be afraid to ask them, and get them involved in the things that you're doing of, well, what do you think about this? What's the next song that I should put out? How about this beat or this beat? What's a better production that I'm putting out? What do you think about this song or this song? Do you think I should add guitars or bass line into this? I don't know, but get them involved and be open to people's feedback as well too, because that can help you grow.
It's true. I think about this. I own a coffee company, right? So I'm always looking through coffee content. I'm always looking at what people are doing in coffee, and it always defers me from wanting to copy them. I'm always like, gosh, this is so boring, dude. Like posting a bag of coffee or, oh, got this new origin, and you have to be very, you do. That's the reality of it, is you have to do it, because that's the industry that I'm in, is coffee. So I have to do that. But here's the thing. What I've been nervous about, that when I first started the company, the biggest thing that I would say the fear that I had inside of me was asking for people's feedback, because I was terrified that people were going to tell me everything that I was nervous to be. So I didn't want to fall into the cliche coffee industry, the cliche coffee company, any of that stuff. So I never asked people for feedback, because I was like, I don't want to be that. So if they tell me, you know what I mean, then I'm going to feel like a failure, because I was trying to be something totally different. But as I started to realize, I'm like, wait, hold on. That coffee industry has been successful for a reason. So why wouldn't I want to take some of them little things that are working or, whatever, and use those inside of my strategy? So what I did is we did kind of a small rebrand, because we wanted to bring more of who we were into the brand. And what I noticed is I started asking people personally, like, hey, what do you think of the coffee? Or what do you think of the branding? What do you think of the marketing online or whatever? And there was a lot of people that told me, it's like, oh, it seems like a coffee company. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. But another thing too, is there were some people that were like, man, I'm not going to lie. Like your marketing was so good that like it tricked me into buying the coffee, but I wasn't a huge fan. There's some people that are like that. And the reason why I'm putting it out there is because, man, this is it's a compliment almost, right? It's almost like a compliment. It's like, I'm not manipulating people into buying it. It's just, I want people to come to our page and our website and think, wow, man, this is nice. And I hope the coffee lives up. But sometimes you can't satisfy everybody. Why? Because people are people, bro. And at the end of the day, your brand is going to be fully you, and not everybody's going to like who fully you is. And to be honest with you, you're going to get a lot of publicity online, whether that's good or bad. But remember, even bad publicity is publicity.
Yeah,
so exactly with that, man. Don't fall into the lies of thinking, man, like if people are coming against me or, slandering me online or whatever that may be, it's like, cool, dude, keep doing what God's asked you to do as an artist. Jump into that. Your consistency, if you stay consistent when people are destroying you and attacking you, your brand is going to grow. Yeah, that's what people, they roll with authenticity.
Absolutely. I mean, things are going to fall. You're going to trip, fall, and stumble. But if you're afraid of that, then you'll never grow.
It's so true.
So you got to do it. If you just keep waiting to do something or to start an idea, you'll never do it. But you jump off the ledge and take that first step, maybe you'll step into something. I heard a guy say one time, it took me forever to write a book, but then when I started chipping away at it, 30 minutes a day, then I had that book written in a few months. So you got to do it, and you got to stay consistent. You got to realize that things take time as well too. Not everything is just you got to put in that work. You do. Another key point too, I really believe that goes with your brand identity and branding artists and musicians, producers, anybody in the creative space that's listening to this, is keep it simple. If you make it too confusing, we live in an ADHD society. People are scrolling, and we are busy bodies, and we are so busy that if things are too complicated, I tell you what, I'm forgetting about it. I'm done with it. And I'll give you a perfect example. We went to a baseball game the other day, right? We went in the other day, and I was given a $7.50 link. That link was such a pain in the butt. It never even went through. I never even came back. I gave up on it and I just gave them the $10. Don't make things, my point is, don't make things such a pain in the butt for people to find out who you are, how to find your music, if people are having to scroll through 25 things to buy a hoodie from you, it's way too complicated.
Yeah, it's true. And man, another thing too is that's such a good point, Blake. That really is, bro. So I'm so glad you hit that. The other thing is who you work with matters, because when you're building a brand, remember, like, consistency as a person, but also consistency in look. So if you have, as an example, you have a videographer, you have a web designer, and you have, I don't know, a photographer, let's just say that. But the three people are designing three completely different ways. It's confusing. It's not. No colors match, no color grading matches. Your color palettes are different. The way you're promoting your brand, your logo, your icon, it don't matter if it's an icon, logo, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all promoted differently. It's confusing. So it doesn't become enjoyable to look at your content anymore, to do anything. And for me, there's actually a metal band that somebody sent me a link the other day. And I remember I was scrolling their. Okay, first of all, I went to their shorts because that was what was sent to me as one of their live shows, and I was like, "Yo, this band is tight." So I went to their page and I started like kind of scrolling their shorts, and then I went to their Instagram and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty. This is a nice Instagram." I went to their website and it was clean. It was super clean, but everything was consistent. Like everything was consistent. Like the darker, moodier blues, they had a little bit of red in there, not a lot. All of their merch kind of matched how their web designing was, what their brand looked like, what their Instagram thread was, all of that stuff. And then I was scrolling and they partnered with another band that's a little bit smaller than them on this last tour that they went on. And I clicked on their Instagram, and I almost immediately remember, like, oh my goodness, where do I start? I was like, I don't even know where to start on their Instagram. It was so confusing. Like there was like no, there was just no cover photos on videos. There was just no color. So then I went to their website and I was like, man, their music is actually really good, because I had it playing in the background as I was on their website and I was listening. I was like, they're really good, but their website's confusing. There was nothing that was the same. No two pages were the same. There was no like thread that was consistent. It was just all over the page. And I remember leaving it and I was like, man, I don't know if I would want to buy, I don't know if I were to buy a t-shirt, where is it coming from? I don't even know that I would be confident that I would get the t-shirt, because it wasn't a trustworthy visual, if that makes sense. But the other band, I'm like, absolutely. I would shop on their junk all day. I would shop on their website and stuff, because they made the clickability good. They made the identity was there, right? Everything that we look for as consumers was there. Remember, that's what you're building: a good aesthetic, a good visual, and you're building something for people to enjoy to look at. Like, dang, man, I actually really enjoyed this video or this picture or, whatever it may be to promote your material.
Dude, I love that. And I want to thank you, Brandon. Brandon, you've been a part of helping me and the team, and you're a part of 3 and Infiltrate and everything. And like, people find people that you can do life with and that you can trust, but you've helped build that brand identity, and that's kept things consistent, and then if things aren't, then things have been brought to light, in a loving manner, and said, hey, maybe this could be done, or this could be done, or I'm trying to click on this, and that's okay. You got to take that constructive criticism and you got to get that right. But I want to say this: the consistency needs to go full circle, right? From your Instagram to your YouTube to, whatever you're using, your Facebook, your TikTok, and then your website. It needs to match. Yeah. Right. And it needs to send, so if somebody's on my website, they need to be able to access my social or my Instagram. And if they do, it needs to line up. It needs to match with my website, with the identity of my website, and my identity of my website needs to match up with my social media as well too. You want that consistency. You want that simplicity. You don't want people to have a hard time to find it because their attention span, you've done lost sales, you done lost people's attention, and they're probably never going to come back. And let me say this: online sales, like conversion rates, are extremely small. People think they're big. Like it's already small as it is. If you lose people's attention, then good luck on getting them to actually put something in the cart and buy it when they can't even find it.
Yeah.
And if they don't know who you are, how do you, if they don't know how you are, how do you expect them, or if you don't know who you are and you're not consistent in your branding and your identity, how do you expect consumers, your fans, whatever, people following your ministry, whatever you're doing, how do you expect them to follow you and understand the identity that you're trying to establish or what you're trying to do, your story?
Yeah. I mean, 94, I think it's 49% of people have to see something 7 to 10 times before they put it in their cart on a website. So they have to see an ad 7 to 10 times. 49%, that's almost half. 50% of people have to see something 7 to 10 times before they even click a link to put something in their cart. That sounds big. It's not. It's really, that goes like 7 to 10 times for 50% of people. If that number was like 95%, then that would be a different story. But 50%, you're like, dang, man, 8 billion people. That's, because it's 49%, not even 50.
Also in music, like if you're consistent with it, like I've watched Miles Minnick do this, right? He's just been consistent. When he's put out content, he's worked really hard over the past couple of years, and his team with him, they've just put out content and they just put it out. So like you got no choice but to see it.
Yeah.
If it's one song, they've built it up for a month or two. Like you don't want to go last second and just say, here's my song and here we go. Like I've been bad about that,
Yeah.
But you want to build it up and you want to throw it. You want to saturate people with whatever it is that they're doing. And they go, you know what? I'm going to listen to what that guy Brandon's doing. I'm going to click on it real quick because I've been seeing it like 10 times. It's going to pique your interest and you're going to be like, I got to hear that right there.
Yeah.
I gotta look at what that is. And then then you maybe turn on to that,
Yep.
So be consistent. Don't give up. And I want to leave listeners with this to be ever evolving, right? Just like our faith, Brandon and I's faith, we've got to be ever evolving. We all don't have it perfectly figured out. God does. If you don't know the Lord too, I'm going to take this time right now. You can reach out to us, info@infiltraterecords.com. We want you to know Jesus as your Lord and personal Savior. We are happy to share the gospel with you and pray with you. Reach out to us, hit us up, and our team will pray for you, with you, whatever you need. But make sure that you are ever evolving in your brand. Make sure that you're ever evolving in whatever you're doing. Make sure that you're learning and growing and continuing to elevate. That's what I want to leave people with. Anything you want to finish off? Anything we didn't discuss?
Brief. My last thought I would say is, man, artists, you guys definitely have help as Infiltrate Records. Man, we have a team that want to be able to help you and to encourage you, to make you feel like you're growing, and not only growing as an artist, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all of those things that kind of go into who you are as an artist. And the only way we can do that is if you reach out. So being able to reach out, emailing the team, asking for help as you're, jumping on board and you're learning more, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't in this video, but there's so much more that we're going to be sharing. So making sure you take those opportunities. If, you're like, man, I don't really want to wait for another video. I kind of want to just answer. I want to ask a question now and get an answer so I can grow now. Do that. Ask us questions, email us, and we would love to be able to help you.
Yeah. And also like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell, stay in the know, because we're going to continue to put out educational videos. And that's one deficiency that Brandon and I have seen and that we've learned, right, is the business side of things. People forget, they focus so much on the music, but they forget about the business side of things. And the business is the most important part. Like, you've got to have sustainability to have a ministry, to have a brand, to have those things. But if you don't ever put it in place, how are you ever going to get there? So, you got to think about that. And we're here for you. Reach out to us if you have a question. And us at Infiltrate Records, it's a we mentality, and we mean that. I know that's cliche for people to say sometimes, but it's the truth.
It's true.
Dude, I got hiccups right now, but
yeah,
but really that's what we want to promote. We want to build up men and women of God. We want people to disciple one another. We hope that people come in and that they pass on knowledge and education that they get to the next person. Me and Brandon can't help everybody. We can't. We're only two people, and we've got families and wives and kids and new homes and all these things. Like, we're there, but we want to pay it forward, and that's the discipleship model that Jesus did. Is he said, all right, go 2 by 2, pay it forward, go. And that's what we want to do. And we hope that people that join in and join the team and the squad, that they will do the same thing. So today, to wrap up, we've covered brand consistency, right? But you can't have consistency if you don't have an identity. So you need to have your identity. Your logos are very important. Make sure that your things are excellent. If it's not excellent, then be careful about putting it out, right? Make sure you're
consistent. That's so important. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I put out garbage before. I ain't gonna front. But
and don't be scared to send it to people to ask them their advice or opinion before you put it out. Don't ever be scared of that. Do it. I highly recommend it. At least 3 people.
Absolutely. That's true. Yeah, like even music, like when I released the album, I was like, what's the best song? And everybody came back, and then I was felt in my spirit, but it wasn't biased because I felt this way. I got other people's feedback who didn't just give me something I want to hear, but gave me good, genuine feedback.
100%. Yep.
And that's something we have at Infiltrate Records. Submit your thing in. You can submit your stuff into us and the A&R module, and you'll get back a rating on all your songs, unbiased. So that way your friends ain't like, yeah, that's great. You guys are so awesome.
100%.
You want unbiased feedback too, because you don't want to put a bunch of garbage, because that's what people remember you for.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So be consistent in your brand, know your brand identity, keep going, be ever evolving. And anything else you want to hit people with, bro?
I think that's it, man. I just really want to encourage people with that. I'm excited about the next one.
Me too. I'm excited too. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell, share this out. If someone can use his help, that is a musician, artist, creative. And again, Brandon and I both want you to know that you are loved by God so much. And if you have any questions or need prayer, you can reach out to us, info@infiltraterecords.com. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, Brandon and I are out. Peace.
See you.